The sun was barely rising over the city of Aleppo, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, but the streets were already heavy with fear. Smoke drifted from buildings scarred by years of war. In the narrow alleyways, whispers carried warnings. Stay inside, don't go out, it's not safe. In a small, quiet house on the edge of the city lived 3 Christian girls, Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin. Mariam was 16, strong and brave, with eyes that seemed to shine with hope even in the darkest times. Lina, 14, was gentle and clever, always humming little songs her grandmother had taught her. Yasmin, 12, was the youngest, curious and full of laughter, though the war had stolen much of her carefree joy. That morning, the 3 girls were fetching water from a small well near their house. Their mother had asked them to be quick and careful. The city was not safe, she said, her hands shaking as she hugged them. Mariam nodded, clutching her sister's hands tightly. Don't worry, Mama, she whispered. We'll be back soon. But the streets had changed. Shadows moved strangely. The sound of footsteps echoed too loudly. Before they could understand, a group of armed men appeared from behind the ruined walls. Fear froze the girls in place. Their hearts raced, and their voices trembled as the men closed in. Please, don't hurt us, Lina cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mariam tried to shield her sisters, standing tall despite her own terror. The men laughed, a cold, cruel sound that made the girls' stomachs twist. It seemed like there was no way to escape. But then, as the men reached out, a strange feeling washed over Mariam. It was like a warm light spreading inside her chest, making her feel stronger than she had ever felt before. She whispered a prayer, almost without thinking. Jesus, please save us. Suddenly, the air seemed to shift. The wind howled through the broken streets as if answering her prayer. One of the men stumbled, tripping over something invisible, while another turned around, confused and terrified. Mariam blinked in disbelief. Could it be? The girls clung to each other as the armed men scrambled, shouting angrily at the sudden chaos. Mariam's heart pounded, but inside her, a calm voice whispered, I am with you. Do not fear. In that moment, Mariam realized that no matter how dark the streets, no matter how cruel the world could be, they were not alone. Something far greater than fear had stepped into their lives. And though the danger was far from over, a spark of hope had been lit, a hope that could not be broken, not even by the shadows of war. The girls ran, their feet pounding against the cracked stones, as the men yelled behind them. Mariam led the way, Lina clutching her hand, Yasmin close to her heart. Every step felt like a miracle, as if invisible hands guided them through the ruins of Aleppo, keeping them safe from harm. For the first time in many days, Mariam felt a flicker of courage. The city was dangerous, the world was cruel, but with Jesus by their side, they might just survive. And maybe, just maybe, they could shine light in the darkness that surrounded them. Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin ran through the twisting alleys of Aleppo, their breaths sharp and loud in the cold morning air. Dust from the broken buildings swirled around them, and the cries of the city's wounded echoed in the distance. Every step felt dangerous, every shadow a threat, but Mariam kept pushing them forward. Left, quick, she whispered urgently, pulling her sisters down a narrow path between 2 ruined houses. Lina stumbled over a pile of bricks, and Yasmin cried out. Mariam grabbed them both, helping them steady themselves. Their hands were sticky with dust and sweat, but she refused to let go. Behind them, the armed men cursed, their footsteps pounding like drums of doom. Mariam's heart raced, yet inside, she felt a strange calm. He is with us, she whispered again. And with every step, it felt as if invisible walls rose around them, keeping the men just out of reach. They reached a small courtyard, abandoned and silent. In the middle stood a fountain, long dry, its stone cracked and worn. Mariam took a deep breath. We need to hide, now, she said. She spotted a pile of rubble at the corner, large enough for 3 to squeeze behind. The girls pressed against the stones, trying to catch their breath. Lina's small frame trembled. Mariam, they're going to find us, she whispered, fear in her voice. Yasmin clung tightly to her sister, her tiny fingers digging into Mariam's sleeve. Mariam shook her head. No, they won't. Jesus is protecting us. She could almost feel the warmth of his presence, surrounding them like a shield. And then, something incredible happened. The sound of the men's footsteps began to fade. Mariam peeked through the rubble, and to her amazement, the men were running in circles, confused, yelling at each other. How? Lina gasped. Mariam didn't answer. She only whispered another prayer. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for keeping us safe. The girls stayed hidden for what felt like hours, their hearts pounding in sync, listening as the men finally disappeared into the chaos of the city. When Mariam finally stood, she felt a new courage. We have to keep moving, she said, helping her sisters to their feet. Every corner of the city still held danger, but now they had hope, and hope was stronger than fear. As they moved through the streets, Mariam noticed signs of others suffering in the city. Families huddled in ruins, children crying quietly, women staring blankly at walls scarred by bullets. Her heart ached. She realized that while they had been spared, the world around them was full of pain. Maybe we can help them too, Lina said softly, her voice trembling but brave. Mariam nodded. The thought gave her strength. They were not just running for their lives. They could be a light in the darkness, a sign that even in the worst moments, hope and love could survive. As night began to fall, the girls found a small abandoned church. Its doors were broken, its windows shattered, but inside it felt strangely safe. Mariam lit a small candle she found on the altar, and the flickering flame cast long, warm shadows. The girls sat close together, exhausted but alive. I never thought we'd make it, Yasmin whispered, tears running down her face. I thought we were lost. You were never lost, Mariam said, holding her sisters tightly. Jesus was with us all along. Outside, the city groaned under the weight of war, but inside the church, a tiny flame burned, a symbol that no matter how dark the world became, light could still shine. And Mariam knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning of their journey. The candle flickered in the abandoned church, casting dancing shadows on the cracked walls. Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin huddled together on the cold stone floor, still trembling from the morning's terrifying escape. But the warmth of the tiny flame and the quiet of the church brought a small comfort, a fragile sense of safety. Outside, Aleppo was alive with whispers of danger. The streets echoed with the movement of soldiers and armed men. Mariam knew they could not stay here forever. We have to leave before they come looking again, she said softly, stroking Yasmin's hair. Lina nodded, her eyes wide but determined. The three girls stepped cautiously into the night. The city was different in darkness. Shadows stretched across walls like long, silent fingers, and every sound, a distant shout, a falling stone, the flutter of a bird, felt like a warning. Mariam led the way, whispering a prayer under her breath. Jesus, protect us. Guide our steps. Keep us safe. As they moved through the alleyways, Mariam noticed something strange. Figures in the distance, watching them silently. The girls froze. Mariam signaled for them to hide behind a ruined wall. The figures drew closer. Men, armed and cruel, with eyes that burned with malice. Mariam's heart pounded, and a cold fear gripped her. But then, just as the men reached their hiding spot, a sudden gust of wind blew through the alley, scattering dust and debris. The men stumbled, shouting at each other, confused. One of them tripped over a fallen beam, crashing to the ground. Another turned to look back, but the shadows seemed to shift and twist, hiding the girls from view. Mariam swallowed her fear and whispered again, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for protecting us." They ran. This time, Mariam's pace was faster, more desperate. Lina stumbled, and Mariam grabbed her hand, pulling her along. Yasmin clung to Mariam's other hand, her small frame shaking with fear. Every step felt like a test of their courage, and every heartbeat was a reminder that they were not alone. Finally, they reached a narrow street that led to the edge of the city. There, Mariam spotted a small cart abandoned by its owner. "Quick, hide in the cart," she urged. They squeezed inside, their bodies pressing together, hearts racing. The men passed by, muttering angrily, but they did not see the girls. Hours passed in tense silence. Mariam kept whispering prayers, feeling a strange warmth in her chest that gave her strength. Lina and Yasmin tried to sleep, but fear kept them awake. Mariam realized that courage was not the absence of fear, it was moving forward even when fear was all around you. As dawn approached, the city's sounds changed. The cries of the wounded faded into the distance, replaced by the soft clatter of birds. Mariam peeked from the cart and saw that the streets were quieter, calmer. A sense of relief washed over her, but she knew their journey was far from over. "We're not safe yet," Mariam said, helping her sisters out of the cart. "We have to find a real place to hide. Somewhere no one can hurt us." Lina nodded, wiping her tears. Yasmin clung to Mariam, whispering, "I'm scared." Mariam hugged her tightly. "I know, Yasmin. But Jesus is with us. He will never leave us. We are never alone." As they walked toward the outskirts of the city, Mariam noticed a small path leading to an old monastery perched on a hill. Its walls were high and strong, its doors weathered but intact. "That's it," Mariam said with quiet determination. "That's where we'll be safe." The girls climbed the hill, each step feeling like a miracle. The city lay behind them, full of danger and despair, but in front of them was hope. The monastery, though old and abandoned, seemed to glow in the early morning light, a beacon of safety, a place where they could rest and gather strength. Mariam knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, guided by a power far greater than fear. And in that moment, as the first rays of sun touched their faces, the girls felt a new courage growing inside them, a courage that no enemy could take away. Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin climbed the last few steps toward the old monastery, their legs aching from the long night of running. The building was large and silent, surrounded by tall, crumbling walls. The morning sun cast golden light over the stone towers, making it look like a fortress of hope. For the first time in what felt like forever, the girls allowed themselves a moment to breathe. "This place, it feels safe," Lina whispered, her eyes wide as she looked around. Yasmin clutched Mariam's sleeve, nodding, her small face filled with awe. Mariam smiled faintly, feeling the warmth of protection in her heart. She opened the heavy wooden door, and the girls stepped inside. The inside was quiet, almost empty, but there was something comforting about it, like the building itself had been waiting for them. They explored cautiously. Dust covered the floors, and cobwebs hung in the corners, but there were rooms with old wooden benches, shelves lined with books, and a small chapel at the center. Mariam lit a candle she found near the altar. Its soft glow illuminated the faces of her sisters, and for the first time since the attack, they felt a small measure of peace. But peace in Aleppo was fragile. The girls knew that danger could return at any moment. As Mariam examined the monastery, she heard the faintest sound of footsteps outside. Her heart skipped a beat. She held up her hand for silence. Lina and Yasmin froze, fear returning like a shadow in the sunlight. Mariam stepped to the window and looked out. A group of armed men were moving toward the monastery, their voices low and threatening. Panic threatened to overwhelm the girls, but Mariam remembered the warmth in her chest, the sense of guidance she had felt before. She whispered, "Jesus, we trust in you. Protect us now." Suddenly, the doors to the monastery creaked open, but no one had touched them. A gust of wind slammed them back, startling the intruders outside. The men hesitated, shouting at each other, unable to understand why they could not enter. Mariam's heart swelled with hope. Something unseen was shielding them, keeping them safe. "We have to be brave," Mariam said softly. "We cannot stay hidden forever. We must trust and move carefully." The girls nodded, drawing courage from Mariam's voice. They decided to use the monastery's secret passages, small tunnels used long ago for monks to escape during times of danger. Mariam had found the entrance behind an old bookshelf, hidden beneath layers of dust. One by one, they slipped into the tunnels. The air was cool and damp, but safe. Their footsteps echoed softly on the stone floors. The tunnels twisted and turned, leading them away from the monastery and deeper into a labyrinth beneath the hill. Every turn was a test of their courage. Every step was a reminder that even in darkness, they were never alone. Hours passed as they navigated the tunnels. Mariam held her sister's hands tightly, whispering encouragement. "We are almost there," she said. "Just a little further. Jesus is guiding us." Lina tried to smile, and Yasmin clung closer, her fear slowly melting into trust. Finally, they emerged into a hidden garden behind the monastery, filled with wildflowers and the soft hum of bees. Sunlight poured down, warming their faces. It felt like stepping into another world, a world untouched by war, a place where life could grow, where hope could blossom. Mariam knelt in the garden and whispered a prayer of gratitude. Lina and Yasmin joined her, their voices soft but full of faith. "Thank you, Jesus," Mariam said, tears running down her face. "Thank you for keeping us alive, for giving us courage, and for leading us to safety." For the first time in many days, the girls felt free, not just safe from danger, but free in their hearts. They had faced death, fear, and cruelty, yet something greater had guided them through it all. And now, in this hidden garden, they could begin to heal, to dream again, and to believe that even in the darkest times, miracles were real. The monastery stood tall behind them, silent and strong, a reminder that faith and courage could protect even the smallest and weakest. Mariam looked at her sisters and smiled. They had survived, yes, but more than that, they had learned that no shadow, no fear, and no enemy could ever take away the light of hope that lived inside them. The hidden garden glowed under the warm sunlight, but Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin knew they could not stay forever. Danger still lurked in Aleppo, and they needed a plan to truly be safe. Yet, for the first time, fear felt lighter, because they had seen that faith could move mountains and that miracles were real. Mariam looked at her sisters. "We've survived so far, but we must face what's ahead. We cannot let fear control us anymore. Jesus has brought us this far, and he will guide us still." Lina nodded, wiping away her tears, and Yasmin hugged Mariam tightly, her small face full of trust. As they prepared to leave the garden, a sudden noise froze them, the sound of men's boots on stone, closer than ever before. The group from earlier had returned, angrier now, determined to find the girls. Their voices were low and threatening, echoing across the hills. Mariam's heart pounded, but she closed her eyes for a moment and whispered, "Jesus, protect us, and show us the way." The earth seemed to tremble, and then, astonishingly, a thick fog rolled in, curling around the garden and rising between the hills. The men stumbled, confused, and called to each other in panic. Their shouts grew louder, then frantic, as they struggled to find the girls through the dense mist. Mariam held her sisters close, her heart filled with a quiet courage she had never known before. "Now," she whispered, "we move. Follow me and don't look back." They ran through the fog, guided by the faint light of the rising sun. Every step felt like a miracle, obstacles that should have blocked them seemed to disappear. Fallen stones, holes in the path, and jagged walls, they avoided them all as if invisible hands were leading them. Lina stumbled once, but Mariam caught her immediately. Yasmin clung tightly, trusting completely in her older sister and in the unseen protection surrounding them. Hours passed. The fog began to lift, revealing the outskirts of the city. Mariam saw a small village ahead, quiet and welcoming, with people moving about without fear. Relief and hope surged in her chest. The girls had made it. They had escaped the cruelty that had hunted them relentlessly. When they entered the village, Mariam approached a kind old woman who was tending her garden. The woman looked at them with wide eyes, then smiled warmly. "You're safe now," she said. "You may stay here as long as you need." Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin fell to their knees, tears of gratitude streaming down their faces. "Thank you, Jesus," Mariam whispered, over and over. Her sisters repeated the words, their voices soft but full of awe. The danger was behind them, yet the miracle was not only that they survived, it was that their hearts were stronger, their faith deeper, and their courage unbreakable. That night, as they lay under a blanket of stars in the safety of the village, Mariam thought of all they had endured, the fear, the running, the armed men, the uncertainty. And yet, through it all, something greater had protected them. Something unseen had guided them, strengthened them, and shielded them from harm. She realized that true courage was not the absence of fear, it was trusting in something bigger than yourself, even when the darkness seemed endless. Lina snuggled close and whispered, I think we can face anything now." Yasmin nodded sleepily, and Mariam smiled, squeezing their hands. "Yes," she said softly. "With faith, with hope, and with each other, nothing can destroy us. We are stronger than fear. We are stronger than the darkness." From that night on, the three girls never forgot the power that had carried them through Aleppo's shadows. They lived as a beacon of hope, showing that even when the world seems cruel, even when danger lurks at every turn, faith, courage, and love could create miracles. And in their hearts, the memory of that miraculous journey remained, an eternal reminder that light can shine in the darkest places, and that no one is ever truly alone. Summary. In war-torn Aleppo, 3 Christian girls, Mariam, Lina, and Yasmin, face a terrifying threat when armed men attempt to harm them. Fleeing through the dangerous streets, they experience fear, uncertainty, and moments of despair. Yet, through courage, faith, and divine protection, they survive every peril, guided by an unseen power. After finding refuge in an abandoned monastery and finally reaching a safe village, the girls learn that hope, faith, and love can overcome even the darkest circumstances. Their journey transforms them into beacons of light, showing that miracles can happen even in the most hopeless situations. Moral lesson. The story teaches that faith and courage can protect and guide us in the darkest times. Even when danger seems unstoppable, trusting in something greater than ourselves, and supporting one another, can lead to safety, strength, and hope. It reminds us that fear can be overcome and that miracles often appear when we least expect them. The end.